Hi, everyone, and greetings to you from the disasterready.org team as we honor World Humanitarian Day, which occurs on August 19th. My name is Tina Bolding, and I'm with the Cornerstone On Demand Foundation, and I'm very pleased in honor of World Humanitarian Day to be interviewing Christian Arróliga from Food for the Hungry as we learn more about her experience as a humanitarian. So welcome, Christian. I'm really glad that you're here to talk with me today.
Thank you, Tina. It's an honor and a pleasure to be here with you celebrating this day.
Well, let's start with what World Humanitarian Day is and why we honor it every year. For as long as I've been working in the humanitarian and development sector, it really never ceases to amaze me that no matter the hardship or the danger, humanitarians run directly into the line of fire. They go directly into where the disaster is occurring. They put themselves on the front line of crisis, and they do that in order to help protect, save, and support people in need that have been impacted by disasters and crisis many places around the world. And so while this is very rewarding work, it can also be quite dangerous. And I was looking at the Humanitarian Outcomes 2022 Aid Worker Security Report, where it said 461 aid workers were victims of major attacks in 2021. And of those, 141 were killed, which I don't know if you knew this, but that's the most deaths recorded since 2013. So going back to the 461, of those 203 were wounded, 117 were kidnapped, and 268 had individual attacks. Mm-hmm. So it's really with this in mind that August 19th is such a beautiful opportunity to honor and remember humanitarians for the work that they do and the sacrifices that they make. They're meeting every year. I don't know why I'm saying they're, you and your colleagues as humanitarians are meeting an ever-growing global need from people that are suffering from disasters and crises. So that kind of sets the stage a little bit for why this day is important. It's important to us to celebrate and to honor people like you. And so, Christian, let's dive into your story. And I want to begin by asking you, tell me a little bit about where you grew up and what inspired you to choose a career as a humanitarian.
Well, I am from Nicaragua. I was born in Nicaragua, and most of my life I have been here in Nicaragua. And I come from a family of missionaries, local missionaries. My grandpa, my mom, my dad, they met there in my church. So it's something that it's part of us, and I feel it like as a goal for me. It's something that I've seen all my life, because I don't think that to be a humanitarian worker is that you have to be part of an organization. There are so many humanitarian workers in society, and that's what I come from a humanitarian family. I'm very proud of that.
Well, that's great. That's great. And so that's what inspired you then to choose a career?
I think so. Since I was a little kid, I wanted to be a doctor, but I wanted to be a missionary doctor. I wanted to go out and help and work. And at the end, I decided to start studying psychology. I got a major in psychology because I thought that was a way to help. And that took me to social psychology, and project management. And I got involved in all this world. I feel that I was chosen. I didn't choose. I was chosen to be in this world. And I love it. I love my work. I love what I do.
So how did you get started? What was your first humanitarian project or organization that you worked for to get into this line of work?
I started working as volunteers, as a volunteer with different organizations when I was in church, when I was in at college, during disaster. I come from a country, we call it the land of lakes and volcanoes. So we have a lot of lakes and volcanoes, but we also have a lot of disasters, hurricanes, earthquakes. So we have to be there for each other as a society. So I started actually as a volunteer in my church and then college. So when I applied for my first job, I remember I used all this experience as a volunteer in my CV to apply for my first job, and I started working with primary healthcare in communities where they didn't have access to medical care. So that was the first organization that was actually founded by the pastor from my church, from that to the church that I was attending at that time, and that was my first job.
And how many years total have you been working as a humanitarian now?
Not as a volunteer, it will be 17 years now.
17.
Yes.
That's amazing. So when you think about like in the first, let's say 5 years of working formally as a humanitarian, what were some of the challenges that you faced in those early years? I see you grimacing.
I would say it will be more about appearance, my gender, and because I was too young, or that was the assumption from people, too young, too soft, and I was a woman wearing pants, and that was kind of hard in local communities to get their trust and to trust me that I was actually there to help and that I had the skills and the knowledge. And still, those are still challenges that I have to face. Yes.
And so what are some of the ways that you have addressed those challenges?
Building relationships. I have to gain the trust of people when I start working. It's not in every scenario where I have to work, but it's most of the scenarios I have to be there and to be confident and to gain that trust from people. So it's more about building relationships.
Do you have any advice for other humanitarians early in their career on how best they can build relationship and gain trust?
I think that one of the things that has actually helped me, it has to have someone, you will have to go this far because I need to find the word. I'm sorry. It's not an advisor. It will be to find a sponsor. A sponsor that really helps. It's to have that sponsor for you in your career, someone that supports you, someone that is there to coach you or to introduce you to other people, that really helps. And I am really thankful and grateful for those sponsors that I have in my career. And to trust. I think to trust in yourself, but to trust others. I think we all have the capacity to trust others. And if we want them to trust us, we also have to trust them. That eventually they will see what you have, and they will allow you to come. Because at the end, we all want the same. We all want the well-being of the communities. So it's to trust yourself, to trust the process, and to trust others. We all have that capacity.
That's good. That's good. I'm pleased that in my career I've had some great mentors and people that have coached me along the way, which does make a big difference. So, well, we talked a little bit about the dangers. That's just part of reality of doing humanitarian work, is that it can bring dangerous situations, working in unsafe environments. But for people who may be watching this video that might not be familiar with what danger looks like for humanitarian roles, can you share one or two examples of times you have actually experienced when you felt unsafe working as a humanitarian.
No, I can think of one of the missions where we were, and we had the donor, and they were big diplomats, and we found out being in the field that the partner had they were involved in drug trafficking, so we had to make decisions in the middle of the night, like what to do, and when we got back to the country, we were still asking ourselves if we did right, but those are decisions that you have to make at the end, and I remember that they even follow us to the airport to make sure that we left the country, and those are situations that you don't think of when you sign up for this type of job, but it is
Mm,
part of it. Yes. So
mm.
I was thinking of that. And the other cases that they might be really exciting at that moment, but then you think about it, like being in a river at night, and it was very rocky, and it wasn't deep enough in some of the areas. So the guys, they had to jump out of the boat to push the boat, but there were also crocodiles in the river. So at that time it was exciting. We were having a time in the boat. But then you think about it, you were like, maybe we should have made different decisions.
Yeah,
So
those
things
are
like
good.
that.
Those are good examples because what I'm hearing you say is you can't necessarily plan for everything. Some things just happen,
Mm-hmm.
and so yeah, it's making. I mean, just the humanitarian role in and of itself is making decisions quickly, reacting to different parts of the environment that may be
Mm-hmm.
changing. Or I know I've been in a country before where all of a sudden, out of nowhere, just floods of people came and surrounded the car that I was in, and
Mm-hmm.
so it was scary from the perspective of, do you stay in the car, do you get out of the car, where do you go if you get out of the car? Out of the car, why is this group of people, lots and lots of them in this area? So yes, things
Yeah.
can.
And when you see it, and also when you're in the field, most of us, I will say that most of us are excited and we enjoy what we do. And sometimes we forget about the rules. We forget why we have to do certain things, like to be back really early because it can be dark in the river. And what do you do after that? So we are just excited in our world. We are big champions and we are big heroes, and we forget about these things. And yeah.
Hmm.
And,
Well, that's a good segue into the. Uh, it's a good segue into what type of training and the fact that just training needs to occur. Recently, a colleague of mine said, well, a firefighter would never go into a fire without being properly trained first. And I thought, you're exactly right. They would not. And so
yeah.
humanitarians really are the same. I mean, we should not go into anywhere really where we're working to provide humanitarian aid, or even on the development side after disaster has occurred and infrastructure is being rebuilt, or let's say child development programs. There's all kinds of things without being properly trained, because the training is critical to making sure that humanitarians can deliver effective and safe humanitarian responses. So I'm curious, when you think about training and disaster ready, for example, are there any courses that you would recommend to other humanitarians that would be good for them to complete on disaster ready, that would help to minimize the risk in order to maximize their impact?
Yeah. And to answer that, I have to say that in my organization, we have to take every year a travel safety training. It's every day, every year. So we are like, again, do we have to do that? Yes, we have to do it again because we are so used to it. So like, I know the airports, I know the language, or I know the people, I know how to interact, I know the road. We know everything because we are there. We don't want to take the risk. Like I'm talking about generalizing
Compliance. It's that
humanitarian
compliance
work.
training you take every year.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And every year that I watch, it's like, yeah, I have to remember that. Or I forgot to do that this year. So I think it's really important to do it. Like even if you think that you know everything and that you already have the experience and you know how to react, it's important to take it, like to travel, personal safety, and in disaster ready. That's one of the courses that I take every
Yeah.
year. And
Yeah.
when people in my team were saying like, again, yes, you have to do it again. It's not about just compliance, it's about your safety. If you're safe, you're gonna be able to do more. If you're safe, you're going to be able to keep safe others. So
Yeah.
that's one of the courses that I recommend. And they're like 1 hour, 2 hours. It's worth it.
Yeah, that's the travel. There's that one. And then there's also the personal safety and security certificate, where it's
Yes.
assessment based, that all comes together, and there's like 9 courses. And
Yes.
I mean, that one's it takes a little bit longer, but it goes deeper into some areas. And to be honest, I take that training too, and time after time, I think, oh, I didn't do that right.
Yes.
Several years ago, I didn't realize that, and so my risk increased. But yes, so those are definitely important.
Yes.
And just, for those that may not be familiar actually with disasterready.org, I did want to explain that disasterready.org is the largest free online learning portal that was built to train humanitarian and development professionals and even volunteers anywhere in the world. And we do that by providing over 1,600 self-paced online learning resources that are available at no cost. So if you're not familiar with disasterready.org and you're wanting to become a humanitarian, or maybe you already volunteer or do humanitarian work, but you need to invest in your skills, like Christian has been saying. There's training from safety and security to professional development to how you manage a humanitarian project. There's all sorts of training that will help you build your skills to be more effective. And again, no cost, and it's provided in English, Arabic, French, and Spanish. Christian, my final question to you is, what's one piece of advice that you would give to, let's say, a humanitarian that is just starting out?
I would say that in general, for all of us, and maybe this is my psychologist in me talking, is to be safe, not only talking about security, it's also to be safe, taking care of yourself, taking care of your family time, your me time. And because we forget, we can get wrapped up in the work we do, and we forget to take that time and to find that balance and to take care of our physical health, but also our psycho-emotional health. I think it's important to be able to find that balance, and because I think part of our goal is to give ourselves and to help others, to be there for others. But to be there for others, you need to be in good condition in general, physical, emotional. To find that balance really important. So to be able to give yourself that time and that care, it's really important. It's also to be part of being safe, to be able to make good decisions when you are under stress. But what happens after and before those situations where we find ourselves in really harsh situations?
That is such great advice, and I couldn't agree more. And I will just say, we have several different courses and videos in Disaster Ready on self-care topics, well-being, stress management, burnout, lots of different topics, and those really are important. So thank you, Christian, for sharing that. And it was Truly a pleasure talking with you today, and I appreciate you being with us to honor World Humanitarian Day. And on behalf of the Cornerstone Foundation and our Disaster Ready team, we would all just like to say thank you from the bottom of our heart for the work that you do, the work that your colleagues do at Food for the Hungry, and please continue to be safe. And we just truly appreciate it.
Thank you, Tina. It's an honor for me. It's an honor to be part of this world also, of humanitarian and development.